Like we always do about this time.
You're now in tune with the best podcast show online. Welcome to the Fantastically Dunn Show, the realest show you ever heard. Straight truth, no chaser. Without further ado, I introduce to you your master of ceremonies for the evening, Sonny Dunn Smith.
Yes. What's good, people? This is the Fantastically Dunn Show. This is Season 1, Episode 1, and today is...
This is another Real Talk Monday exclusive.
That's right, today is Real Talk Monday, where we keep it really, really real. This is what we do. You know, we're going to do some heavy lifting today with the first episode. 30 minutes, non-stop, nothing but real. That's what we do here on the Fantastically Dunn Show. Now, today's topic of choice is going to be Black Lives Matter. Now, I'm going to explain to all you young people out there listening, and even all you old people listening, the reason why the Black Lives Matter movement and the strategy, the current strategy at hand, will not work and will not be effective long-term for the problems that we're facing today in 2016. So I'm going to break that down strategically, kind of explain what birthed the Black Lives Matter movement and, you know, where it kind of comes from and where we need to go. Because this is a hotbed topic, an issue that is affecting my community. It's affecting black people around this country for the most part. And ultimately, we need solutions. This is the thing that we need solutions, right? So, and this is not to take a shot at Black Lives Matter. This is not to say that what they're doing, you know, they're not doing some good things in the community or not trying to do some good things, positive things in the community for people of color. But ultimately, I think it's not really being as successful as it could be. And the reason why is the strategy. I mean, let's face it, the civil rights movement, this is what birthed Black Lives Matter. You know, it's nothing but really a reincarnation of the movements that we saw by people of color in America from the mid to early 50s to the 60s to the 70s, which was the civil rights movement. Obviously, we know all of the key players that were involved in that, from MLK to Malcolm X, Minister Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, the list goes on. It goes on, okay? We pretty much know the key players in that game. And it was a very, very successful strategy. And the reason why it was successful is, well, here, look, let's face it. It was effective because it didn't work to focus on changing the mindsetting of the people. I think in the beginning, Dr. King kind of, you know, he envisioned a country where everyone would be together. All races, all colors, all creeds, all orientations will be together. And that's really a beautiful, beautiful thing at the end of the day. Unfortunately, and I think he started to realize toward the unfortunate ending and demise of his life, is that we need a strategy. And we need a strategy that's not going to work to beg for the thing, the change that we want, but a strategy that's going to actually work to consistently changing the mindsetting of those people that would work to be agents for racism, will work to be agents for discrimination. The bottom line is, I mean, let's face it, we're all different. And that's okay. It's okay to be different. There's nothing wrong with being different. The problem is when you have a group of people that see another group of people as being of a lower standard, or some people would even say, you know, not even human, not even humane. You know, this is a group of people that are not civil, they're not civilized, decent, and there's no way that we can make them that way. Ultimately, you know, this is the way they are. And we have to work to change that narrative in this country through strategy, again, not through some of the things that we've seen before. And I just want to say, as a person of color, I'm extremely disappointed, and you should be as well, in a lot of the things that we have witnessed behind some of these unfortunate, tragic events over the past few months. I mean, you know, it's one thing to have someone shoot a person of color, but our reaction is what we should be paying close attention to. You know, are we organizing? Are we starting to come together with a strategy and a plan that's actually going to work? Or are we just burning down our own neighborhoods, continuing to kill one another, but at the same time say that we're in love with our culture, with our people? And, I have a real issue with that. Bottom line is, and I've kind of heard it from both sides, okay? One side is, and it's a very valid point, but it's not a point at the end of the day that really can be made before we get to the point of understanding that discrimination can't happen. before we start talking about black on black violence, first we have to level the playing field. We have to make sure that we're dealing with an even field. If we're not dealing with an even field, then we can't discuss the problems of the people until we give the people real solutions and we give them real opportunities to be as society deems that they should be, which is decent, civil, non-murderous, non-violent, things of that nature, very productive people. If we're not going to be willing to give people an even playing field, we can't discuss that. So what we are addressing right now, and I will address that also at a later time on another episode, I'll get into that, the black on black violence, because if we're going to be honest, we have to honestly address everything. And that includes even the things in our own communities that, we may not want to necessarily address. But this is a must. This is for the future generations out there, all the young people that's coming up. I personally want to see a world where young people can go in any neighborhood where there's people of color around the world, and you're going to be greeted and welcomed as people, as family. That's how it should be. And all of this other stuff that's working to divide us as a people, that has to go. Whether it's gangs or it's organizations, grassroots movements, if it's working to not unite us, unify us, but instead to put us into categories and subcategories and tribes, that has to go. And the reason why is because we're a very unique people. Being in this country and having the history that we've been told that we had and that our ancestors had, we're a very complex and unique group of people. And we have to understand that. And we need complex, unique solutions. And look, let's face it, that's what it is. And the faster that we actually come to grips with that, come to terms with that, the better off we'll be. So now I'm going to get into the meat and bones of this whole thing, the Black Lives Matter, okay? And I'm addressing the organization right now, not the people that's out in the marches and the ones that's standing on the sidelines. I'm going to address the actual movement, where they're trying to turn it into like a political movement, okay? Now, Black Lives Matter, again, let's face it, it was birthed and born out of a group of young people that looked at some situations that they were seeing in the media, and they saw some real racial injustice going on in America today. Civil unrest. I witnessed it. You witnessed it. We've all witnessed it. So this is where it came from. They saw it, and a group of people, I'm pretty sure they were probably on Facebook or Twitter or something like that, because that's kind of where we congregate now, more so than anywhere else today. And so they saw an issue, and they began to talk about the issues that they were seeing and begin to think about solutions. How can we come up with a solution to solve these tragedies we're witnessing unfold? And the answer to that is they came up with Black Lives Matter. And what they were attempting to do is they were actually attempting to resuscitate the civil rights movement. And so they started a grassroots movement, and pretty much every time it was an injustice somewhere involving people of color, they showed up. They're there, bam. You know what I mean? They're on the scene, or they're on Fox News, or they're on CNN, MSNBC, the list goes on and on and on. And, they're making a conscious effort to kind of be a voice for the voiceless people of color. And don't get me wrong, you don't have to be elected. No one elected me to speak up. There's nothing wrong with speaking up. I created this show to give a voice to the voice that's missing. I feel like, I've heard this and that and this. Bottom line is, there's nobody really that comes from my community that's willing to speak about things the way I'm going to speak about them. And to me, people are far too wanting to be politically correct. I have no interest in being politically correct. It's not my intention to offend. It's not my intention to get on here and sound crazy, but it's my intention to be real. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it because that's what we need. Bottom line. Let's face it. We need people that are going to speak up and are going to speak definitely to the issues that are relevant to us today. But we need those people to speak in a voice, in a way in which we can directly relate to the things that they're speaking about. If I can't relate to the things that you're speaking about, ultimately, even if you have a great point, it makes your point not relatable. So therefore, there's no real thing I can attach to and relate with what you're saying, even though I may relate with some aspect of the subject matter that you're addressing. Now, getting to the as I stated before, getting to, kind of the meat and bones of the whole thing, Black Lives Matter today in 2016 has been somewhat effective. Somewhat. And I use that word very loosely. It's been somewhat effective, Obviously, they're getting coverage on major media outlets, which I don't too much care about. And, at the end of the day, platforms with the internet changed everything. It changed the whole game. You don't have to be on Fox News or MSNBC or CNN to have a voice today. That's a great thing. I gave myself my own voice. I'm creating a podcast network. That's what this show is going to be part of. And there's going to be plenty of other shows on the network. But right now, it's going to be my show. My show's the first show to launch out of the network. And, I'm very proud of that. I didn't go to any of these major players and, sit down and beg and strategize with them and ask for budgets. I did it on my own. And that's what I want to encourage the youth to do. Don't wait on anyone to validate your voice. God gave you a voice to use it effectively. Be effective with your message. And that's what I fully intend to do with this show and this platform. And that's what I'm going to do. And I'm willing to engage. I'm willing to, as I stated before, this season, I know it's a lot of shows out there where people are doing live streams and, people are doing video and all, and we're going to get to all of that. Trust me when I tell you, we're going to create the type of show that you guys are going to be proud of in the future. But right now, everything starts from the infancy stage. So instead of waiting to build all of that, I just wanted to start the conversation. And so I said, well, I'll just do a podcast right now, while we're building those infrastructures and platforms, I'll just do a podcast right now and start a conversation just through social channels, and allow people to submit questions, and I will address those questions, and those will be 30-minute topics on every show, and we'll engage through email, we'll engage through chat, things of that nature. And as we move forward into season 2, I'm actually going to be getting a co-host, and we're going to be interviewing people. You're definitely going to get some very, very great video content from those interviews. It's going to get better and better, but I just wanted to start the conversation. And so that's what we're doing right now with season 1. I think right now I'm going to do probably 5 weeks of these, and I'm going to be taking your emails, taking your questions by email and through social media. Whoever sends me the best questions, those are the questions I'll answer on that following week's show. And I'll even shout you out, and I'll through social media, through the blog, through just on the show, period. When I'm taking the question, I'm addressing the question, I'm going to always state who asked the question and things of that nature. So, you guys are going to definitely get your just due. So, with all that being said and stated, the final 10 minutes I'm going to spend explaining why Black Lives Matter will not be effective. Now, I explained where it came from, okay? It was birthed out of the civil rights movement, and, it was a group of young people that came together on social media, and they were seeing the injustices that were occurring in America, and they decided, we're going to come together, we're going to address these things, from Trayvon Martin to, the list goes on and on and on, and even the newer cases today, okay? So that's pretty much how the movement started. Now, I'm going to explain why the movement is not effective. It may be effective in the sense of, it's getting coverage on major media outlets and people are talking about it through social media. But ultimately, when I say effective, let's be clear, I mean that it's not solving the problem. That's what I mean. See, because I know some of you guys will want to go back and forth and like ping pong me on, well, people will know about it and it's, everybody's heard about Black Lives. That's not at the end of the day what I'm talking about when I say effective. Effective is like if I have a disease and, you have two forms of ways to attack a disease. Number one is you treat it. Number two is you cure it, okay? Right now, Black Lives Matter is treating the problems that we're facing today, and that's why they're continuous, ongoing, and it seems like it's becoming more and more vigilant, more and more visible every single day. The reason why is because we're only treating the problem, we're not curing the problem, Okay? Now, what I'm going into next is I know everyone's next thing is going to be, well, I don't have the answer, then you must have the answer. What's the answer? And the bottom line is the answer is this, okay? We have to remember that we have to go back and do our research and understand that, let's face it, America was founded, the United States of America was founded not on civil decency. It wasn't about civil movements. America was founded pretty much, for the most part, it was founded on capitalism. This is what America's all about, okay? And that's a beautiful thing. It's nothing wrong with capitalism. Capitalism is what got us where we are now, as a country, not as a people, not black, not people of color. I'm talking about as a country. Okay, that's not speaking for people of color, because obviously we know that, that's not been inclusive for us. The American dream, since I can remember, I know probably since as long as you all can remember as well. So that's not what I'm speaking to. What I'm speaking to right now is capitalism in the sense of working capitalism. When capitalism is at its most effective state, it's basically producing assets. You're buying into assets at a low price. You're selling at a high price, and then you're taking a portion of the proceeds that you've collected from those assets, and you are basically reinvesting them again to acquire more assets. This is the quick concept thinking of capitalism in the Americanized form, and that's unfortunately not what we've been doing, practicing, or we're taught. And put it like this, any movement that doesn't teach the values of capitalism in a capitalist society is gonna fail. And that's just bottom line. So at the end of the day, to garner respect, and this is what we really need to produce between the various different racial groups in this country today, we need to produce a serious sense of respect. And the only way that's going to happen is if people feel like, I respect these people over here. They're doing good things in this country. They're producing great things. They're not a nuisance or a problem for this country, but they're actually a benefit. They're an asset within themselves. This is where respect will begin to be produced. And that is the key component that's missing today is respect. When you don't respect someone, ultimately you feel like they're a problem. You feel like, if they weren't around, things could potentially be better. And logically speaking, that's not logically correct, because people of color today and, in the past let's face it, got this country to where it is. This country could not be America without people of color. So that in itself is just it's an erroneous concept that we need to drop. This country is, some people have said 14%, I've heard 13%, I've heard 15%, of the population of it is populated with people of color, being what we call black people in America, which pretty much means descendants of slaves. That's what, when you use that terminology, black, white, this, that, because really there is no such thing as a black person, a white person. And that's kind of something that was made up on the fly by people that wanted to categorize people and put people in categories by color. So that's pretty much where that comes from. But technically speaking, there is no race called black. There's no race called white. So, just breaking down that whole concept, marching, burning things, stopping traffic, things of that nature, all will not be effective long term, solutions for the issues that we're seeing today. And the reason why is, quite frankly, what I just said is because it does not produce a sense of respect. All that does is it destroys things. It makes people very angry. It creates civil unrest. And then you have people that begin to feel like they're going to protect themselves and their families and things, their assets and things of that nature. So people begin to want to bear arms. And the bottom line is, you can't answer violence with violence. You can't meet violence with violence and produce peace. You see, you can't do that. So at the end of the day, the solution we need is to understand where we are, to understand what that means, and to understand how important that is. Once we begin to understand those things, mark my words, you're going to see things change around almost immediately. When you solve the poverty issues in America today for people of color, when you begin to teach people of color to have self-respect, dignity, and pride, when you begin to tell people that they have a purpose that's bigger than them and things of that nature, and they start buying in and believing that, oh, trust me, you're going to see a real turnaround in this country like we've never seen before. And ultimately, that's what we need. Let's face it. We can't keep going the way we're going with all these separatist movements and all these racial profiling and all the racial discrimination and people saying they don't like this person because they look. All of that stuff is just absolutely absurd at the end of the day. If you're a good person and you're cool peoples and, I consider you a friend or an associate of some sort, I don't look at your color. That's stupid. Let's face it, that's stupid. And we need to eradicate that. And I believe that you guys, the true superpowers in this world of the future, the youth, I believe you guys are gonna do it. I know you can do it. I know you're capable of it. I just know you need information. And that's the reason why I'm doing this show right now, is to try to give you guys as much information as you can gather without having to do a lot of independent research, to give you as much information as I possibly can, and to be there to answer all of your questions, and to let you guys know that I'm rooting for the future, I'm rooting for the youth, and I want to be a part of changing this world. That's the biggest thing. So, once again, Black Lives Matter. I'm not going to get all into who's involved and this and that and that. The bottom line is I will address that in another episode, and I will kind of break down the organization, who's in it, and kind of what their backgrounds are and all of that. But for this particular episode, this being the first episode, I really just wanted to, kind of address some of the bigger issues with it, kind of like get to the meat of it. What is it and what's wrong with it and why won't it work in its current form? That's what I was attempting to do with this episode. I can kind of sit here and elaborate on it on and on and on, but obviously, each show is 30 minutes and we really have to stick to that because we want to keep things moving and flowing in the right manner in which to keep everything fluid. So that's where we are, and that's kind of addressing what I set out to do with this episode, which was addressing Black Lives Matter, what it is, where it came from, and why the current strategy of it won't work. So to all those people out there that are pushing Black Lives Matter, to all the people that are against Black Lives Matter, I want to just say Black lives certainly do matter, okay? And I've heard people say all lives matter. Okay, we know all lives matter. That's not something that I don't think we need to even state that. The reason, and I want anyone who's not of color, I want you to understand why Black Lives Matter was necessary. The reason why it was necessary is because there have been a whirlwind, a flurry, so to speak, of racially charged, unjust shootings of black males in the United States of America over the past 6 months. Now, if any other racial group can state that same, those same statistics, you can pull hard data, then you have a real argument or you have a counter. But if you can't, then you just have to understand. Now, I'm not saying it's this race's fault or that. What I'm saying is that we have to come to terms with that. And we have to understand that it was necessary and it was needed. And that statement should have been made. So at the end of the day, I don't want to really hear anyone saying, well, why is it Black Lives Matter? Or why is there a BET? Which I'm going to get into also in another episode. I got some things I want to address with that as well. And again, this is not an attack on, on white people. That's what they're called in America, white. When really there is not really, a color of people. However, that's what they're categorized as. And I'm not attacking white people. I don't want white people to think I'm another, here we go with another one of these guys. No, at the end of the day, that's not my aim. And I'm not knocking anybody who does. That's just not what I do. You know what I mean? I'm not someone that's pushing black supremacy and this and that. And, although I know all the players in that game and I have a lot of respect for a lot of the elder statesmen in that game, and I understand where they're coming from and a lot of the things things that they say. But my focus is purely on the youth. I only want to educate the youth with hard facts, data, and information, and ultimately give them the ability to have platforms, ask questions, engage, things of that nature. That's what this show is about. That's what this platform is about. There's plenty of other shows out there where they're going to be accurately addressing kind of all things I just spoke about, white supremacy, this, that, this, At the end of the day, I'm not going to be doing that. This is a youth-focused show, and I want to keep young people's attention on the things that I think are absolutely relevant, and that is solutions. Real solutions to real issues, things that we can practice, do actually set into action, and see results from. I think it's really pointless to continue to sit up and focus on how a group of people feel or whether or not they like you or not. That's really irrelevant, or how they feel about themselves or their race. It's really irrelevant at the end of the day. We need to come together. We need unity right now in this country, and we don't need anything that's going to work to separate us, that's going to work to push us apart. It's not going to be effective, because look, let's face it, people of color have to face. You're going to need people that are not your race to assist you in doing certain things to be successful, and that's vice versa as well. So the sooner we all face that and understand that we all need each other on this earth, on this planet, in this universe to succeed and to be successful, the better off we'll all be. And it basically comes down to respect. And Black Lives Matter, ultimately, it works to enforce prejudice and bias through force and through any means necessary. I respect the ancestor Malcolm X. He's a very, very great man, great orator, leader, brilliant man. But at the end of the day, I think if he would have lived to be an older, wiser man, I think he would have come to realize exactly what I just said. And that is that anything that works to divide us, whether it's a race, whether it's indifferences, whether it is money, categorizations of any sort, is not beneficial to the future of the people of this country and really of this world. We're just going to have to face that and understand that. So, yes, is there racism in this country today? Absolutely. Is it nonsense? Absolutely. Can we rid the future of it? Absolutely. The way that we can do that, we have to first start with respect. Self-respect is where it all starts first. So I'm speaking to the people of color right now, and I'm going to get into that in the next episode. I'm going to get into that about, the importance of self-respect. Before I can ask respect from anyone else, I have to first display respect for myself. So self-respect is the greatest respect of all. And we need to understand that, and we need to accept that. And the better that we accept that, the faster that we accept that, and we start practicing and preaching what we practice, the better off we're going to be, and we're going to see change almost seem like overnight. You know what I mean? So that's really what I wanted to get into with this episode. I'm glad that I was able to quickly get to the point. I hope I didn't do too much babbling and things of that nature. I just want to quickly get to the points, hit on the points, but also give you as much information as I can within 30 minutes. So, I don't want to not give you enough and have people emailing me and sending me social media messages saying, well, you kind of spoke on this issue and you were speaking about it, and then you changed directions and you kind of, you kept shifting, you didn't elaborate. So that's the reason why I try to go a little deeper into the subject matter, so to speak, as opposed to just hitting on something and moving to another subject. We tackle one subject per show. That's why they're 30-minute shows. So that gives me enough time to kind of really speak on the issue at hand and stay in that one issue. You know what I mean? Which I think is very important. We need to stay focused at all times. So I'm just really glad that I was able to address that and explain my perspective on it. I think it's a very effective perspective. You guys are certainly welcome to send emails through the website, which is fantasticallydunnshow.com. Also, go to the social media channels. Send us messages through there. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We'll have a Tumblr. Send us messages through those platforms as well. I want to hear from you guys. I want you guys to engage the content. It's going to be on YouTube. It's going to be available through SoundCloud, the Apple iTunes Store, Go wherever you need to go to pick up these episodes. Sit down, listen, study them, and don't forget to definitely send me your messages, your comments, your questions, everything, every week, every day. I want to hear from you guys, and I want to engage with you guys. This show is for the youth, and once again, we're going to get into it real heavy. This is Real Talk Monday. We did some real heavy lifting right now. This is kind of a heavy issue right now with Black Lives Matter, and I know there's going to be people that are of color. They're going to listen to this and say, well, I don't understand why he would say something like that at the end of the day, and he's black as well. Well, you got to listen to everything I said. We're looking for solutions. We're just going to sit up here and we're going to keep doing what we've been doing, and we can do that all day. But at the end of the day, that's not my intention. That's not why I created this show. I want to find solutions. And if we can't find a solution, then we need to just kind of shut everything down until we do, because it's only going to get worse. So unfortunately, Black Lives Matter, the strategies that's going right now, it's not going to be successful because it does not push for unifying people of all colors, races, ethnicities, the whole thing, and also pushing for respect and understanding how we're going to get respect. We're not going to get respect by taking our money out of what we call a white bank and going and putting it into a black bank, because the bottom line is all banks are mandated by the same banking system, and there are going to be white people in that system. There are going to be people of color in that system. We have to figure out, if we want to change the actual banking system, then we have to figure out politically how to do that, and which I'll touch also on that in another episode of how we can start to affect change, real change, with the laws in politics. But it first starts with self-respect, dignity, and understanding that each person has something to offer. So there's no such thing as a worthless person. The only thing separates us is our decisions. I say this all the time, and I'll say it again. It's our decisions. We're all in the same boat. We're really one people. We look different, we talk different, we act different. I know people from New York, they kind of got that New York slang, you're over there. And then you got people that's from where I'm from, that's from Cleveland, Ohio, that sound like me. So it's not about where you're from, it's not about where you're at, it's not about how you look or how you dress. It's about, what is your purpose? Why are you here? Why are you on this planet? And we're not here to divide, we're here to unify. We're here to come together and make things better for the next generation that's coming behind us. If we're not working to do that, we're not effectively doing our job. So with that being said, I'm going to go into my thought of the day. Basically, the way I do my thoughts of the day, I just take a summary of everything that I've said with the topic. So my thought of the day today is obviously going to be around solution. And this was my thought. Today, more than any other time in history, our youth need to arm themselves with logic that is not one-sided, old fool, or outdated. They have to be made to understand that marching down streets with signs and blocking traffic won't ever equal to real progress. Without the controlling of economics, change will never come. And that's my thought of the day. So again, all you young people listening to this show, study that message. Put it to the test. If I'm wrong, prove me wrong. But that's my thought of the day. Okay? Till the next time, be great, do great. Thank you, God, for loaning the world to your children. Peace, peace. Later.
Thank you for tuning in to the Fantastically Dunn Show. Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and comment on the show. For show notes to this episode and all past episodes, head over to www.fantasticallydunnshow.com. Until the next time, remember, you are whoever you think you are. So think you're great.